Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Day One, Week One podcast. My name is Billy Bowring. I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes to an hour. Today, we have an incredible guest. I'll tell you how we met real quick. So, a couple months back, there was a radio station called the Thin Line Rock Station. And what they did was they asked me if I wanted to DJ on there, and I stumbled across it. And then a couple weeks after that, this young lady ended up on the radio, and she took to it like a professional. She came on board, and I mean, we started a group chat and everything like that. So now everybody's like best friends. We're all buddies and pals out there. We got EMTs, we got police officers, we got everybody. And the great thing is they're all over the country. And Riverside, this app allows us to do video and audio podcasts. So my guest today is Miss Dina Campbell, and she is from the great state of New York, the Big Apple, literally in the city. She served and still serves currently for NYPD, and she's here to tell her story today. I'm fascinated. I just told her before we started the show, there's absolutely no way she has 3 children and has been in law enforcement for 14 years. It's amazing. So I would have thought she was like 28 with about 4 years on. So
Thank you.
anyway, I'm going to give it over to Dina and let her tell you her story and tell her what's going on.
Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here today. Yeah, I kind of got into law enforcement like by accident. I kind of fell into it. It wasn't something that I always wanted to do, not something I grew up doing. Or, I don't come from a law enforcement family. I call those legacy kids. I'm not a legacy kid. My husband is, but I'm not. So I went to school for finance. I wanted to help people invest their money, save for, their kids' college and all of that, because that wasn't an experience that I grew up in. So I wanted to learn about it and help other people do it. And in 2008, the economy tanked. There were really no finance jobs. I was working in a bank at the time. I was a head teller / like account exec opener person. And my husband was like, he was my boyfriend at the time. He's like, I'm taking the NYPD test. Why don't you take it with me? And I was like, I don't want to be a cop. And he's like, just take it as a backup plan. And I'm like, all right. So we went through the process. There was a hiring freeze. So it took us about 3 years to get hired. We went through the process, aptitude test, physical test, written and oral psychological exams, background check, all of that. And then our investigators were like, okay, 2011 doesn't look good. July class is full. This was in like May of 2011. Plan on January of 2012. And we're like, perfect. Because in that 3-year time span, we had gotten engaged. We were planning a wedding. So we were like, all right, we'll plan the wedding for August of 2011, plan a honeymoon, get ready, finish out the year. And then January of 2012, we'll plan on going into the academy. And then July 4th of 2011 comes, and we both get a phone call from our investigators. And they're like, if you want this job, you will be in Brooklyn swearing in 2 days. And we're like, oh shit, what do we do now? So we went to Brooklyn and we swore in. And then once we got into the police academy, we were like, by the way, we are getting married in a month. So is there any way that we could get the day off to get married? And I think like people in our academy class didn't know that we had been together since high school. So I think they thought that we met in July and got married in August, like that we had this whirlwind wedding. But it was good. 14
Right.
years later, here we are.
So you did the academy together. So
Yes.
and no one knew that you were a couple during the academy.
The people in my company knew and his company knew. And then
Mhm.
so we weren't in class together. We were
Oh,
in
I
the
got you.
same, we were both on the same, like on the day class
Mhm.
of the academy, 2 different classrooms, 2 different companies, but
Right.
we had the same gym block. So like we would always get teased in gym, like, oh, look, there's your husband. Or they'd be like, oh, look, there's your wife. But it was fun.
So the academy experience for NYPD, where do you go for that? You said you go to Brooklyn for that?
Well, we swore in Brooklyn College. That's where we took our oath. And then at the time, the academy was on East 20th Street in Manhattan. Now it's since been moved to Queens. But yeah, so that's where we went to the academy. It was like 7 to 3 during the day, Monday through Friday, so we didn't have to sleep over or anything, we just commuted.
Oh, wow. Okay. Right. And were you getting obviously, you were getting paid during that time
Yes.
once you go to the academy. Okay. I know when I went to the academy in South Carolina, if you failed one test, you were done, and then you had to be responsored to come back. So is it the same kind of criteria?
We had so, like, all of the police science and all of those classes, they were all in 3 different trimester exams throughout the academy, and
Mhm.
you had to pass the trimester exam. I think if you failed, you had an opportunity to retake it once, like, there was a tutoring window, then you had an opportunity to retake it, but then if
Mhm.
not, you had to, repeat the academy. Same
Right.
thing with, like, the range or driver training. If you failed any of that, you had an opportunity to make it up, but then you had to repeat the academy.
Right. Right from the beginning. So you would
Mhm.
kind of recycle right from day one.
Yes.
Okay. And the length of the academy, is it
6
you
months.
said
So we
6
started
full
in
months?
July and we graduated at
Mhm.
the end of December.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a long time.
Yeah.
The one in South Carolina has been whittled down to about 12 weeks, and you do your first 4 weeks you do at your agency. They do a lot of the video training, things like that, and then they have a training. The training department will take you out. You do practical application, things like that, and then when you go to the academy, you learn the legals and like you said, a lot of the book stuff
Mhm.
because they'll jam it into your head at that point.
Exactly.
So, so I'm assuming that you guys weren't the first husband and wife that went through and graduated, or
I
did you
don't
guys make the
think
news?
so, but we were the first that got married while we were in the academy from, like,
Nice.
in recent memory. I doubt we
Mhm.
were, like, the first ever, but in
Right.
recent memory, yeah, we were the first, ones who were together outside and then got
Mhm.
married while we were in the academy.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So everything as far as assignments and how that goes, were you guys allowed to be in the same precinct? Anything like that?
No, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We were both in we both got sent to Manhattan after we graduated. Manhattan is broken up into, like, 2 we call them patrol boroughs, so there's the northern part of Manhattan is one,
Mhm.
and the southern part of Manhattan is another. We were both in the northern part of Manhattan. He was in Harlem, and I got sent to Washington Heights, which is, like, the northernmost part of Manhattan right before you get to the Bronx.
Okay. And the commute wasn't that bad or anything?
I mean, I grew up about an hour outside of the city, so for me, the commute has always been normal. Like, people are like, "Oh,
Right.
I can't believe you drive so far." It's like, I grew up here, so, like, I'm used to it now.
Right. I got you. Okay. So after you get out, everything was the wedding is over, the academy is over. I don't mean to make light of the wedding because that's a big thing.
No, it's it's okay.
But so now your careers are going and
Mhm.
you're both starting out on patrol, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so we didn't have field training at the time, they do
Mhm.
now. We had what was called Operation Impact, so we were on foot posts in, like, shooting high crime areas and that kinda stuff. As, like, presence and obviously, like, deterrent for crime and all of that stuff.
Or
We
targets?
Yes, basically, yes. We did that for s I did that for 6 months. I think he did that for closer to a year maybe, and then
Mhm.
we got moved into our patrol commands. It just depended on who was graduating and when like, if the command where I was, we got some more people and I got transferred out. In
Right.
his area, they didn't get them as quickly, so he had to wait
Mhm.
until new people came in, and then he got transferred out. And then when I
'Cause
got to my command, I worked after Washington Heights, I
Mhm.
got sent to it was called the 19th precinct on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and I did patrol there. I did, like, the 4 to midnight shift.
Okay. I'm sure you saw a ton of stuff
Yeah.
during those hours. So first of all, anyone that's a police officer in New York City, um, this is just my opinion. Okay, so I don't want anybody out there. Oh, you've never been to Chicago or whatever. I get it. But my point is, when I became a police officer, um, here in South Carolina, it was like Mayberry compared to what you're talking about. Um, yeah, I just the first assignment I had, there were um, 23 square miles that I was responsible for, and it usually took me about 30 to 40 minutes to get to any call, and
By
then
yourself?
by myself, and
Oh,
then
wow.
any officers that were going to respond if you got into some stuff. Yeah, they were. You got to learn how to fight for yourself out here.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. You were basically on your own. We had um, for the town side of the county, we had two officers, two deputies, and then for the beach side of the county, we had two deputies, and then a supervisor, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was five of us running all those miles. So I mean, the call for service isn't like every 15 seconds. So it was you might get five calls a night, but it takes you a minute to get there, stuff like that. So
Yeah, and then like you said, God forbid you have to call for backup, you're
right.
on your own until it gets there.
Yeah. Car chases. I had my first car chase by the time they wrecked and were out of the car and running, that's when all my guys showed up.
Of course.
So right. But I mean, we still got a conviction on it and all that. So, we do a lot of stuff on this. So you would have I think the difference between that is that you would have um, immediately after an altercation, say a domestic violence situation, our job as soon after the arrest is to collect all the evidence, make sure everything is clear, and write the report, go through, the whole entire process. I think are there not different, uh, I want to say departments, but different people that come in New York so it's handled differently, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so when we have an arrest, we do the arrest
Mhm,
paperwork, and then we help like, the ADA will help us draw up the case,
mhm,
but we don't most of the time, we don't directly take the prisoner and, like, right to arraignment into court to see the judge. We take them to there's, like, a holding facility, central booking. Each borough has, uh, a booking,
mhm,
and we take them down there, they get processed down there, they get held until arraignment usually, and then they see the judge. Once they get transferred over there, they're in the custody of the Department of Corrections,
mhm.
so we really don't, um, have as much to do with it at that point.
So do you present the cases to the judges?
They
For
get not directly, no, they get,
Okay.
like the files get put together, and then either corrections or there's NYPD officers working down in booking, they put the
Mhm.
cases together and present them.
Okay, and that's based all based on the information that you give them,
Mhm.
right? So you gotta have your ducks in a row before you even get to the jail.
Yes.
Yeah. So we down here, we after we do the report, if they're in, holding, if it's a warrant type arrest where any felony would be a warrant arrest, so we would have to write up the warrant. I would actually have to write the warrant up, take it to the judge, have him sign it, and then present it at the corrections and tell him explain to him what the charges are. They see a magistrate judge in the morning. They either bond out or they stay until their hearing. And at the hearing, I present a probable cause case to the judge to see if it goes on to regular court. We do all that. I mean, we're basically presenting the case as if we were the DA as well. So there's a
Oh,
there's a lot
wow.
involved. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
By the way, we have a lot of retired New York City officers down here in Myrtle Beach.
I'm sure.
And there's a huge group called the NY13. I don't know if you've heard, anything about those. It's a huge group down here. I say huge because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of NYPD guys that have retired and come down here. Um, they meet. I think it's one Thursday every month or something. And they have dinner and they have a a big thing. I was able to present my nonprofit to them a couple months ago, and it was pretty interesting.
That's
But because
awesome.
everyone had the everyone had the accent, which I
Oh,
noticed you don't. I noticed you have it slightly, but you said you were about an hour out of the city, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm
Makes a
about an
difference?
hour outside.
Do you think it makes a difference?
I think so, like, and I don't even notice it. I
Mhm.
My kids will tell me if I am at work, like, usually at the end of the week by Friday, I come home and they're like, "You're talking funny," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, when I spend a lot of time in the city, sometimes it leaves with me, but
Right. So, let's talk about your experiences, from the beginning. I mean, was talk about the fear factors, things like that.
I mean, I again, growing up outside of the city, it was culture shock for me to come into New York City and then end up in Washington Heights and see all of like, it was a completely different way of life that I had to learn now working in this area because I didn't have any experience with it. But, like, my first night, I'm standing on a foot post and, like, my field training cop was the guy who graduated 6 months before I did, and he's like, "Let me show you around, kid." And then somebody comes up and they're, like, asking for the cops, and I'm like, "Oh, that's me." Like, because 'cause you're not used to it. Like,
You're
it
reaching for
was
your phone, reaching for your
yeah,
cell phone, like,
it was
"Can you call
wild.
911?" Yeah. Do you have any stories that you'd wanna share in the beginning? Either heroic, funny, anything like that, that you wanna maybe tell the folks about? Because 'Cause I'm sure there's a young woman that is gonna watch this, and they're thinking, "You got in law enforcement, and you didn't really care to be a cop, and this is something they've wanted to do since they were little because they saw women police officers out there killing it." So, what would you tell that little girl today about law enforcement?
I would say if this is something that you've always wanted to do, there's nothing that anybody could have told me to prepare me for the things that I was gonna see and experience on this job, and I also didn't expect the command when I first got started, I was in the 34th precinct, and the women there were most of them were absolutely incredible, like, they were so happy to mentor. Any questions that I had, they would answer, they just kind of, like, took me under their wing. All of us, not just me, but the new girls, they really wanted to make sure that, like, we stuck together because it's hard enough to be in law enforcement, and then even more difficult to be a woman in law enforcement. So I really, thankfully, was lucky to have a good support system once I got on. That's not always the case. So I would
Right,
say have a very strong sense of who you are, and I call it, so on my podcast Outside the Line, I like to say anchors. I like who what anchors you to the real world? Who are you as a human being outside of what you do for a living? Because one day that uniform is going to come off. Maybe, God willing, you get to the end of your career and you can go out on your own terms. That's not always the case. One day that uniform's gonna come off for the last time, and you may not be prepared to accept who you are as a person, you may not even know. So I would say have a very strong sense of support outside of the job.
right. Um, something that you have that benefited you is you had a good support, uh, source inside the job.
Yes,
Right.
that too.
I think that dynamic is changing, unfortunately. Um, I mean, the camaraderie that used to be there just isn't there anymore. I think it's kind of a all for one or none kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It is. I don't know if it's a competition for position or rank or anything like that. I'm not sure exactly. I know my experience. Um, I had been through a shooting, and on the other side of it, I didn't necessarily realize what my reactions were going to be, and someone noticed, and then they ended up telling the command. Next thing I knew, I was being served with a piece of paper telling me to turn in my badge, my gun, my car, and that I could show up Monday, but I had to be in civilian clothes. So you want to talk about identity with an unexpected, with an unexpectedly coming out of the uniform, um, that broke me. It
Of
really
course.
broke me because I worked really hard to get where I was. Um, and because I came into law enforcement a little bit later in life. I'd already served in the Navy. I'd already been a truck driver for a bunch of years. By the way, coming up through New York City in an 18 wheeler, forget it. I
Good
don't
God
care.
bless, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. It was some of the most white knuckling things that I've ever done in my life. Um, but I was like, "Hey, if you're gonna hit me, I'm not gonna get hurt.
Right.
You're gonna get hurt." But I just didn't want an accident, you know? Um, but then, driving truck and then getting into law enforcement later on, um, it I thought I knew who I was, you know what I mean? I thought I had my own identity ahead of time until I became a police officer, and then I would say probably a year in as a police officer, I was like, "Okay, I'm the police. Y'all better watch out." And I was very proactive, and when I say watch out, I don't mean like they call it running and gunning down here.
Yes.
So, you're proactive, you see a car that might look suspicious, you go check it out. You light it up, you find out what's going on with it, call the tags in, all things like that. But today it's changed. The dynamics changed a little bit. Everyone's sitting around watching Netflix until their number gets called, which is frustrating.
It is. And the moral
So,
injury, that's a rabbit hole that I could go down, and I could come
mhm.
back for another episode and talk a whole
Yeah,
episode about moral injury because the
yeah.
people we understand after a certain amount of time, you get used to how you're treated by the public. But
Mhm,
the internal stressors and the policies of the department and the way that you're treated by people who are supposed to be supporting you, and
mhm,
you're just trying to do your job to the best of your ability most of the time, and now you're facing ramifications, disciplinary, or like you said, even told, thanks for everything, but we don't need you anymore, cast
mhm,
aside. That's the stuff that lasts with us longer because it's more difficult to make sense of.
mhm. I agree. Through the 14 years, well, I wanted to go back real quick. During the academy, and I've asked a lot of our guests the same question. During the academy up in New York, were you given any instruction or did you guys talk about mental health? I've heard it said, and I've said it several times, you can't prepare somebody for what they're going to see, but what you can do is help them understand maybe some changes in themselves, or like you said, make sure you have a solid resource or support system that can kind of check your identity and things like that. But my question I sat down about 3 months ago and I started writing up a curriculum for police academies to talk about mental health. It turns into like a 6-hour course, like the last day or the day before they graduate. Hey, you guys are almost there. You're getting ready to walk on the street. You're getting ready to put your uniform on. You're going to be out there. You're going to be the authority and the helper of all of those things. Let me prepare you mentally for what you're about to jump into so that you don't lose yourself in this.
Yes.
And I started writing that and I was wondering, are there academies that are talking about that kind of thing?
I don't know how it is anymore, if there's any mental health training built into the curriculum. I know in the current unit that I'm at now, we do go out. I'm in it's called Employee Assistance Unit. It's like an EAP. We go to the academy and we talk to the recruits. It's a presentation. It's maybe a
Mhm,
half an hour about mental health, trying to prepare them for the things that they might see or positive coping strategies. When I went through, it was more, I would say, like, fear-based, like, the instructors were trying to get you to protect I don't even know. It was basically the 2 things that get, cops, we call it jammed up, so involved in a disciplinary
right.
process, the
Mhm,
most are anything alcohol related and a domestic issue. So alcohol
right.
and domestics, that was drilled into our head. That's what's gonna get you jammed up, that's what's gonna get you in trouble, but it really wasn't from a proactive, like, "This is how you avoid it." It was just, "Don't get involved in that stuff or you're gonna get screwed. You're gonna lose your job." It was like a
Mhm,
fear-based thing. Oh, and
right.
then maybe we had, "Oh, by the way, don't kill yourself," you know? If you ever feel like you're gonna kill yourself, find something, you know? It was like, "Okay."
Just don't.
Right,
Just
just
don't do
don't.
it.
Okay. You know, that was what we had.
Right. Okay. So, but like you said, now you're on a peer group or a peer team, and you're teaching and you're going out talking to the recruits. So you kind of
Yes.
give them an understanding. There's a whole science behind it with the cortisol levels, all of that stuff that goes through there. I was also SISM trained. I took a 3-day course so that I could do one on one and group. Um, got my chaplain training. So there's other things that I'm able to do now where I can self deploy and do my thing like that. But I'm really looking into the curriculum for the academies to let just to give them a heads up. I mean, like I said, it ended up being like a 6-hour curriculum where the instructor would spend half the day with or a full day just going over different things. First of all, the scientific reasons why your body reacts the way it does to fear or to anger or whatever it is, and then how do you step through that process without thinking this is the end of my life. I can't move another day without thinking about this or going here or doing like we discussed yesterday on the phone, where I got to a point where I just said it's so much better for me to not be here. And I just my goal in day one, week one is to make every day one, week one. And the concept behind it is if you remember this the same day that you graduated from the academy, or the first day that you went to the academy, the day that you got married, all of the excitement, all of the anxiety, all of the man, let's go do this. That should be something that we strive to build towards every single morning. Because and I say this on almost every podcast, the Bible is very clear that God gives us new mercies every single morning. So why not go into the next day with a clean slate? Today might absolutely suck, but don't quit today because tomorrow you got a chance to do everything better. So
Right.
that's part of that was kind of part of the end part of the curriculum that we talk about. And I'm actually talking way too much on this podcast because this is your story.
That's
So
okay.
tell me how. So from Washington Heights and forward, where did you end up going? Because I know
So
you're a detective now, correct?
I am, yeah.
Yes.
That kind of so your story, thank you for sharing that because it kind of
Mhm.
loops into what I'm gonna talk about.
Good.
I I did 10 years on the Upper East Side, and in that time, in 2019, we had a suicide contagion where 10 active duty members of service of the NYPD took their own lives that year. And we weren't even I don't even know if we were keeping track of retirees at the time. From that, the peer support program started and our health and wellness unit was created. And I got involved in peer support because, like you said, 2 weeks after I graduated the academy, one of the guys in my company died by suicide. It was alcohol related. I don't, we weren't told whether or not alcohol was involved with
Mm,
him specifically. We were told that, and I don't know if it was because the information wasn't available at the time or because we just weren't talking about it. 2 weeks after I graduated, somebody from the unit that I'm in now came to my precinct and pulled me out of roll call after, like, pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, just so you know, we were told this guy passed away. He was the story that we were told, he was out after work hanging out with his squad mates or whatever, at a bar, drove home. On his way home, hit a guardrail, single vehicle accident, property damage only. The license plate fell off. Somebody behind him must have called 911. He lived outside of the city also. Local police department responded to the scene. He made it home. They responded to the scene, saw the license plate, ran it, and then I guess just came to the house to check up on him to see if he was okay because like they knew the family or whatever. And he saw the radio car pulling in the driveway. And because it was constantly drilled into our head, alcohol and domestics, that's what's going to get you jammed up. That's what's going to get you fired when you're on probation. You're going to get in all this trouble. He panicked and he took his own life with his service weapon. that was January of 2012. So in 2019, when the peer support program was created after those 10 active duty suicides, I wanted every part of getting involved and having normalizing conversations because I don't think it's stressed, no pun intended. It's spoken about enough how normal of a reaction stress is. It's just a normal human response to whatever internal or external stimulus, right? Like I'm not trying to get too technical with it, but
Right.
everybody experiences stress.
Mhm.
And the fact that we didn't talk about that enough and we didn't know what sort of resources were available if we needed something, I wanted to not just talk about it, but I wanted to be a part of affecting that change. So I was still I was still working on the Upper East Side in the 19th precinct when I went through the peer support program. And now we have close to 500 peers in commands all over the city. And then in 2020, what a year, um, an opportunity came to become an EAP full time. So I interviewed for that, but then that a wrench in those plans, from all the riots and all of that, which I'm not going to get into. But nobody was being transferred. There was no movement. It was just chaos. And then so 2021, I re-interviewed again, and I was able to start doing this full time. And then a few months after that, I started teaching peer support.
Nice. So you're the authority on all of that. So is it a specific department that is, or is it just a group of individuals that have that peer designation?
It falls under the health and wellness unit. It's myself, a
Mhm.
sergeant, and he's a civilian. But he's a doctor. He's a
Mhm.
clinician. So the three of us, we get the curriculum together, we teach it, and we follow up with the peers. So it's only three of us keeping tabs on almost 500 peers. But the EAP unit itself, I think we're maybe only 20 or 22 people, and we're trying to, you know, support a whole city of
Mhm.
uniform and civilian members. So you're talking 35,000. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's a lot.
That actually speaks volumes to what upper management chain of command feels about it as an issue. They leave it as a taboo issue where we just don't want to talk about it. We just don't want to talk about it. And that's a my point exactly is it should be a much bigger resource. Like you just said, there's only about 500 peers for, I mean, 30 some thousand officers.
Mhm.
I heard New Year's Eve, I was watching one of the one of the shows that they have, the Times Square dropping of the ball, all that kind of thing. And they said that every officer, I think there's 36,000 officers, everyone was on duty. Every single officer was on duty. It didn't matter, every vacations were stopped, all of that, and everybody was on duty. And I'm thinking 36,000 officers. I mean, I was freaking out with just 300 sworn. I can't imagine. I mean, because you come from NYPD, and if we had some folks that came down here, they did 1 or 2 years in the city, and then they came down here, and now they're on beach patrol, you know,
Good
and
for
they're
them.
loving life. They're loving life, and I'm thinking, you see other officers that come down that were with New York, and I'm like, hey, did you know that guy? I had no idea who that guy is. Yeah, I mean, it's like a city in itself, correct? Yeah, but going forward, not only are you teaching the peer support now, but obviously, I'm curious about the impact of the peer. Do you think that I mean, obviously, you don't have enough folks to reach out to that many officers in any sort of way. Do you think the impact, are, I guess what I'm saying is there a significant difference being made as far as being able to peer and be there for these other officers, or are they just looked at with kind of they get the scarlet letter and they get sent somewhere?
I would say there is definitely a shift in the culture. It's grassroots, right? It starts small.
Mhm.
There are definitely cops who unfortunately slip through the cracks and don't get the help that they need, and they end up going the disciplinary route when maybe it didn't have to go that way. But we do have a lot of peers, uniform members who came on in the peer support program when they were a cop or a sergeant and who are now moving up in the executive ranks,
Right.
which that's the way to change the culture. We need
Yes.
more people on the executive level who were willing to speak out openly about the importance of taking care of mental health and the resources that are out there, whether they be internal department resources or external resources. It really shouldn't matter as long as the person in need gets whatever help will support them the best.
Right. Without the fear of losing their job, thinking that they're not fit for duty.
100%.
Yeah. I had a podcast a few months ago with a firefighter who was a captain, and I explained to him about I said, "You're a captain, so you got a lot of the new guys coming in. They're looking at you for direction and understanding and all of that." And he said, "Yeah, I don't have any problem telling them that I go to speak to somebody twice a twice a month because it it has to happen. It has to happen. They have to have an opportunity to get some of that stuff off their chest. And if leadership is doing it, like you said, you lead by example. So
Love that. Yes. And that's
yeah.
why I'm also very open about the fact that I attended therapy as an active duty cop because
Mhm.
I don't want anybody to feel like they can't, or that the job is going to find out. I didn't use department resources. I went on my own through my private insurance
Mhm.
and I I thought the line was being recorded when I had the first intake call. I'm like, "Are you gonna send this to my job? Do I have to tell my supervisor? Like, are you gonna tell my supervisor are they gonna know from the insurance?" Like, and she's like,
Right.
"No, none of that."
So what I want to speak about that. What was the fear?
For me,
Yeah.
I was afraid. I had just gotten to the EAP unit and I was going through SISM training,
Mhm.
and, the scenario that I had to practice the debriefing was a fatal school bus accident involving children. And I had just spent the last well over a year pushing down my own trauma because I almost lost my daughter in a school bus accident. So I got that scenario and I was like, all right, like I could feel my chest getting tight. My heartbeat
Right.
was in my ears already. Like my face was
Mhm.
getting flushed. But I'm like, "Okay, you've been pushing it down this long, you've been dealing with it just fine, right? You
Mhm.
just have to get through these next 15 minutes, do the debriefing scenario, and then you can figure it out later. This is not the time to break down." O
Right.
Okay, well, apparently it was because I broke down in the class,
Yeah.
but I realized that I couldn't help anybody else if I didn't help myself first,
Yeah.
and that was what led me into therapy, and I was afraid because I had just gotten to this new unit that, "Oh, wait, she just gets here and now she's in therapy? Are you kidding me? Like, no, we can't keep her. She's gotta go back." And I wanted to do this work so badly, and I didn't
Mhm.
want anything to jeopardize this opportunity because it was gonna happen in 2020. It didn't. It happened in 2021, and now I'm here, and now I felt like I couldn't handle it. But that's not
Step
at all the way it was received. My
Right.
supervisor was so incredibly supportive. I said to her, I'm like, "Hey, listen, um, this is what happened in training." And the first thing she says to me was, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" Right? "I'm so sorry that happened. Are you okay?" And I was like, "Okay, this is legit now. Like now I know this is real because if they're going to
Yep.
take care of me this way, they're going to take care of other members this way." And I said, "The only thing I need, if it's possible, if I could get out on time on Wednesdays, because that was my day that I went to therapy." And she's like, "Absolutely, no problem at all, whatever you need."
Mhm. I love the fact that you have that kind of support.
Me too.
It's not everywhere.
Mhm.
Smaller agencies don't, um, they're not a part of that. We had, I'm kinda going off, the cuff here a little bit, but we had on the other side of, South Carolina, over in the mountainous, terrain over there, there was a couple officers that were dealing with a young lady that was, having an episode. She was manic or something, and she was on the train tracks, and one of the officers I was not there, I didn't see it, I don't know how this would happen, but one of the officers was hit by the train and he was killed.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
his buddy was there. I mean, his partner was there, so she was fine. I think the story that what they said was she pushed him in front of the train, kind of thing. I believe that's how the story went, but
Mhm.
the part of it was that his partner witnessed all of it while he was there. That smaller agency almost lost him to suicide because he I mean, that whole survivor's guilt, all of the stuff about I should have done and I could have this, why didn't we just move? Whatever. We have a thing in South Carolina called the South Carolina Law Enforcement Assistance Programs, SC LEAP.
Mhm.
I think New York has the same thing.
Yes.
This one is run by a nonprofit, and everyone goes to Columbia, and they have a 3-day training, if you will, or debrief for why you're there. And that story came up, and those officers were their agency couldn't afford to send them because it's a small town. They had
Yeah,
maybe 5 cops on at one time, a supervisor and a couple guys out, kind of like the county that I started with. And so they couldn't afford to send them. And I'd really like to be able to fund that, as day one, week one. If something tragic like that happens, all they have to do is say, "Hey, we got a couple of guys that we want to send to this thing. The cost is going to be 2,500 per per person. Let me write you a check. Send them out there. They need that." You know, and that's what we desire to do. Kind of moving with that, but the support that you've got and that you've had through that going through your career is amazing because that's not something that is still going on here. It's still
exactly.
it's still it's still frustrating.
And even like, I'm very, very fortunate that I have access to a lot of support and resources where I work. I'm always happy to share information because, I live outside of the city. A lot of the departments, police and fire, well, not police, but the fire departments are volunteer, the ambulances is volunteer. They don't have access to a lot of the same wonderful resources that, somebody working in a larger department would have. So that's why I'm always happy to share information whenever I can because my heart really is it goes out to these officers, first responders in any small agency who may not have a lot of access to that or maybe who, like you said, the agency can't afford to send him to get these resources or even put them on some sort of paid leave so that they can
Mhm.
find whatever it is that they need that's just not available. They either don't have the manpower or they don't have the budget for it.
Right. Absolutely. So you said you started a podcast. How long you been doing the podcast?
A little over a month.
A month.
Yeah, since December.
Okay.
I've been sitting on it for I can't over well over a year.
Okay.
I had solidified the idea in March, right? And so I
Okay.
was sitting on it for, like, technically 9 months. It was like a baby, right? I was so afraid to put myself out there because 'cause I'm like, "Who's gonna wanna listen to another podcast? What could I possibly have to say?" But in my work as a peer counselor and I kind of went through my own, like, I as much as I talk about finding an identity outside of work and I thought that I was able to stay anchored to the real world, in February of last year I went through this dog training program. I was supposed to be a therapy dog handler, a facility dog handler for my department. One of the detectives was leaving and I was going to take his spot. So the opportunity arose and I was like, okay, well, first I have to talk it over with my husband and my children because it meant mom leaving for 2 weeks. So it had to be a family decision. He's a first responder too. The burden of working and running the household and managing the schedules, that was all on him and the kids, had to be aware that they were going to have more responsibilities too. Everybody was on board. I went away for 2 weeks. I had this incredible training. I had the dog. I got home. And then a week, at the end of my first week with the dog, I got a phone call that for whatever reason, out of my control, the training wasn't approved. I had to give the dog back. This was on a Friday. And they were like, "Can you come in and bring the dog today?" And I said, "I can't because my kids are at school. They have no idea what's
Hello?
happened. I want to at least tell them and have them, allow them to have some closure, even though they knew that this was a working dog. It belonged to the police department. They didn't, they fell in love right away. So I wanted them to be able to have some closure with everything. So we had kept him for the weekend. They loved on him all weekend. I brought him back on Monday, and that was a mess trying to what happened? Did I lose you?
Are we back?
I'm I'm here.
Okay.
I don't know where it cut out.
Yeah, well, it just stopped for some reason. It said internal error. Yeah. It said they were trying to reconnect back to the servers. And you left us on a cliffhanger. So, it's re-recording. We're starting. So the first one, hopefully we didn't lose that whole thing. I'll have to go back and check and make sure we didn't lose it. If we did, then we'll have to, maybe schedule another time. I don't want to take your whole morning.
That's okay.
But you left us with a cliffhanger about the dog and the training unit that you got a phone call and then
Okay. So yes,
you
that
you brought the
Friday.
dog home. Right, you brought the dog home and then you got a phone call.
Yep, I had the dog for the first week. We were home. We just got home on Friday. I got a phone call from my sergeant, the canine sergeant, and she was like, "Dina, it's bad." And she sounded like she was holding back tears or like she was getting choked up. And as soon as I heard that, I knew for whatever reason, the training ended up not being approved. The dog had to go back. So I was asked if is can you bring the dog back tonight? And I said, "Well, no, because my kids were still in school. They had no idea what was happening. They didn't
Right.
know that the dog was going to have to go back. didn't wanna pull the rug out from under them, I wanted them to have some closure too. They
Sure.
knew that he was a working dog, that he belonged to the police department, that he wasn't ours, but, like, they loved him right away. So, they got home from school, I told them what happened, I told them that I had to bring him back, and so I was able to keep him for the weekend. We had one last weekend, like, loving on him and playing with him and all of that, and then Monday morning, I had to leave, and I felt horrible. Like, it was because they had to say goodbye, so I had to break
Mhm.
their hearts and then send them to school like nothing happened, Like,
Right.
I just felt like the worst mom ever. Even though this was completely out of my control, it's like I was
Sure.
the one left picking up the pieces and dealing with the aftermath, which so often happens, right?
Mhm.
Especially on our job, things come up out of our control and we have to clean up the mess. So I bring him back and I spent a really long time, a few months, longer than I expected, grieving and mourning not just the dog, because I did. Like, I had never bonded. I didn't know what it meant to bond with a dog. I thought that was like
Mhm.
hippie woo-woo stuff, and I'm like, "Okay, like, you should probably talk to somebody about that," like, if you care for a dog that much. But when you go through this training and you really understand what it means, like, that dog becomes your partner. It's like
Right.
an intuitive level that you get to, like, they get to know you and you get to know them, and it's unspoken communication, right? That can't be described unless you've been through a training like that.
Mhm.
So, I bring him back. I'm mourning the loss of the dog. I felt like a failure because I went through the program and now I don't have a dog, you know? I felt like I let the dog down. I let my family down because I was away for 2 weeks now for nothing. I don't have a dog. I let down members of my department that I could have potentially helped with the dog. I felt like such a huge disappointment. I went back to so the K-9 unit is separate than the EAP unit. It's all in the same building, but different offices. So I went, my coworkers at my EAP unit were so gracious. They were so genuinely happy for me when I was leaving, like, sad to see me go, and I was sad to leave, I didn't wanna leave. They had, like, this whole goodbye party for me, and then a week later, now I'm back, and I was like I kind of made, like, a weak joke. I was like, I really just wanted a cake." Like, that was the only reason I did that, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But they were so welcoming and welcoming me back. I still went through this whole, like, "What am I doing here?" What am I the way I thought that my career was gonna go, that's gone now, right?
Mhm.
Out of my control, but it's gone. So now I have to figure out something else. And I floundered for a really long time with my identity at work because I didn't know what my function was, what my purpose. I was still doing my EAP work. I'm still teaching peer support, but there was a there was something still that was missing. And I didn't really I thought that was the dog, because the dog was gone. But I'm like, "How do I fill that?" And I started really digging into I'm like, "I can't control." I mean, lesson learned the hard way once again, you can't control anything that happens at work, right? The department controls
Right.
everything. That's just the way it is, fine.
Mhm.
But how do I support myself and what can I control outside of that? And that's when I really started to work on, like, who am I as a person? What did I used to like to do that I haven't done in a long time? Or is there anything new that I wanted to try? And I realized how much I really love having conversations with people. I love it in person, um, particularly in person, just because, like, you can this is gonna sound, again, hippie woo-woo stuff, but, like, read each other's energy, you know what I'm like, there's just a difference between being physically present with somebody. There's a deeper connection for me. So I love
Right.
having conversations. And I love through my SISM debriefings, one of the questions I always ask people is, "What do you do outside of work?" 'Cause just reminding them who they are as a person because you are a complete person and you're allowed to have interests outside of what you do for a living. So from that, outside the line, kind of, it was like a long-winded way of saying that's how outside the line came about.
Nice. So when you do the podcast, do you have guests that come on, or do you just are you on kind of explaining I think I went to your website, or excuse me, I went to the podcast site where you where you launched them out
Mhm.
through Spotify, and I noticed you had 4 or 5 different episodes. I started to listen to the first one, because I wanna know first thing I wanna know is who is this, right?
Right.
And what's not only the experience level, but what is she bringing to the table on a podcast? I think that's what a lot of people do. They do the same thing to they do the same exact thing to me. They go to our episode 1 where it was myself and Nick, my partner, and we were starting this thing and we were all excited, no idea what we were doing. Still don't know what I'm doing. Still just kind of going day by day, just making every day whatever it is. But I wondered if do you have specific guests that you call upon to come on and talk about these issues, or do you kind of bring your expertise into it?
The first 2 episodes are solo episodes. The first one is me introducing myself, why I kind of started this, how I ended up in therapy, why I care so much about mental health, because there are so many mental wellness, especially in the law enforcement space, has become an opportunity for people who may not necessarily have firsthand experience to just start talking, you know, which
Hmm.
is fine. I'm not putting any shade on, anybody like that, but I just wanted people to know, like, I have this lived experience and I have the heart for this, and this is why.
Right.
The other episodes are people that I've connected with through Instagram, or like a few episodes are going to be people that I've known in real life. But I truly believe, whether or not an individual believes it, everybody has a story. Everybody has something worth sharing. And you never know who, by sharing your story, who might be listening and who you might help. So the goal is to create a community. I don't want them to be all solo episodes. Ideally, they're not going to be like a majority of them won't be, because the goal is to create a community of people who come together and share their experiences and remind people that yes, there is life outside of first responder work. You're allowed to be a whole person, to
Hmm.
reconnect with whatever fills your cup and brings you life outside of work.
Right. That's awesome. That it's definitely something that's needed, and to kind of I don't want to say take your mind off, but we do need to get away. I remember during the academy, towards the end of the academy, one of the officers, he kept saying, so I was the guy, I'm kind of going in circles here. One of the instructors said, when you're off, you're off. He said, don't do A, B, and C, because all you're going to do is put yourself in a position where that's all that's all you're going to do is think about what's going on. So I was the guy that when I was off work, I had my radio sitting next to me so I could hear what was going on. And if there was, what am I going to do? I'm off duty.
Right.
I can't do anything, but I had to know. I had
And
to
it's not,
know if my
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, if one of my buddies is, you know, in a car chase, or if all of a sudden you hear shots fired over the radio, you're thinking, okay, get ready in case somebody calls you, kind of thing. But knowing what the situation is a little bit before you get there. So I was a guy that did that for the first couple of years, because I was all in. Um, my wife didn't like that because that's all I did. I eat, sleep, police. That's what I did.
Mhm.
So,
And that
um,
happens a lot, especially,
mhm.
when you're scrolling YouTube, social media, whatever, and all these body cam videos come up, different departments across the country. And now you're working for free because you're watching all these body cam videos. Your body doesn't know that you're not in the middle of it, experiencing this trauma firsthand. So now it's like the cortisol, we're like addicted to the adrenaline. We can't turn it off.
It's true. I was watching On Patrol Live one time. My wife and I were sitting on the couch. We just finished dinner, and I'm watching On Patrol Live because I don't get enough of it while I'm at work. So
Right.
obviously, we got to turn it on. There was a vehicle. There was a vehicle chase, and the cameraman did an exceptional job. It was a vehicle chase. They stopped. Just as they stopped, the vehicle had come to rest on its side, and the driver was like I said, the cameraman was amazing. It's almost like they scripted it, but it clearly was not. the cameraman was close enough, I could see the guy reaching up because the car was on his side. He was reaching up for the AR-15 that was in the passenger side, and I literally jumped off my couch reaching for my weapon. It's
Mhm.
like it's like I'm like, "Freeze, show me your hands." My wife's like, "Go to bed. You're done. That's it. We've had enough. Turn that stuff off."
Right. 'Cause it does.
Yeah,
Again, your body doesn't know the difference. I mean, for all your brain knew, you were in that scenario.
that's it. That's it. I thought I was jumping out of the car. Let's
Yeah.
go. So, yeah. Cameraman did exceptional work. He should get some kind of an award for that one. That was good. That fella was those virtual games that you put your goggles on?
Yes.
It's kinda what it felt like
Yeah,
almost.
I'm
My
sure.
body really reacted to that. It was crazy. So what are the plans with, outside the lines? What are you planning on doing? Are you gonna go I mean, you're on the radio channel now, so you're able to promote it a little bit better and get some more listeners and guests and things.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying not to burn myself out because it's, like, new and exciting, right? And I just wanna, like, hear from all of the people and all of the stories and record all of
Right.
the episodes, right? Because 'Cause I'm like, "All right, pace yourself. Every other week, you're gonna release an episode." But now I'm
Mhm.
like, "Ooh, should I go to every week?" But I know as soon as I go to every week, then I'm gonna burn myself out. But I really just wanna have as many conversations with as many people who are willing to
Mhm.
talk as I possibly can and share them, hoping that somebody who needs the message will hear it.
Right. Well, your story is incredibly inspiring.
Thank you.
Again, 14 years, in NYPD, it's gotta feel like it's 34 years, I would think, because I mean, there's really no comparison. The size of the agency, the amount of people that come, not just live there, but come through the city. I mean, there's so many people that come just to visit. Um, so you never know what you're gonna encounter. And not to mention, and I'm not trying to, you know, put any kind of stuff, but you're a global target. I mean,
Yeah.
9/11, you know, I can't imagine some of the scars that are still being seen from the guys and gals that were there on those days.
Mhm.
I know that most of them hopefully have retired by now. If they're not, they better be in charge somewhere. But it just incredibly inspiring that you're spending you and your husband both giving your life of service to a community where it seems like a lot of times from at least what we get from the news media is that they really just don't care about the police.
I appreciate that, and that's another goal of the
Mhm.
podcast too, is it becomes so easy to have this us versus them mentality and
Mhm.
paint all cops with such a broad brush, like, they
Yeah,
all got in it because they wanna violate everybody's rights and they're the Gestapo and, like, all of the things
sure.
that people say about the cops, but just to remind people that
Mhm.
cops are people. They have
Yeah.
lives outside of work. I mean, even though I got into this job, like, it wasn't something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to help people. There has
Mhm.
to be some element of service to cause you to take this job.
Right. I do remember the question when they asked me, "Why do you wanna be the police?" And I just gave a simple answer. I said, "I wanna put the bad guy in jail. That's what I'm here for,
Mm,
because there's bad out there, and it needs to be put in jail."
mhm.
Yeah, of course, I wanna help the old lady and, help the children and all of those things that come with it, of course, you know? People say down here, there's a little more respect, I would think, for law enforcement than there is in New York City. You're coming out of the convenience store, you got your hot coffee, and you're walking back to your cruiser, and somebody ultimately is walking up and saying, "Hey, thank you for your service," and shaking your hand or trying to give you a $10 gift card or something like that, which obviously I'm honored that they would even consider doing that. But then feeling really bad was, "I'm sorry, I'm really not allowed to take any gifts or anything. I appreciate it.
Yes.
My gift is being able to serve you and, all that kind of thing." But yeah, I was the one that if you were the bad guy, you're going to jail. So and maybe that was that because society's changed a little bit. They don't there's not a lot of appreciation for just no nonsense, put your hands behind your back, you're going to jail kind of stuff, do what you're told.
Mhm.
The ask, tell, make situation that used to be is no longer a thing. It's ask, ask again, ask nicer.
Call the
Wait, let
supervisor over, the supervisor will ask.
yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll ask a different way.
Yep.
Can we sit down and maybe have a cup of coffee while and maybe figure this out? There are ways you don't have to go to jail if we can, no, that wasn't not me. That was not me. So, um, definitely want to bring you on again. We're going to have another episode doing this. We're going to talk about the radio station and we're going to talk about some other things that are going on.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us when we can hear you on the radio and where we can find your podcast.
So I am on the Thin Line Rock Station, thinlinerockstation.com, or there's a free app for Android and iPhone. Sundays from 2 to 4 p.m. You will find me there. Outside the Line. I like to keep things simple because I can't remember them. So everything is Outside the Line. The name of the radio show is Outside the Line. The podcast is Outside the Line. The Instagram handle is Outside the Line Podcast. If you can't find me, I don't know what to tell you. I tried to make it as simple as possible for me. So hopefully that makes it easy for you.
That's right. Absolutely. So if you have listeners that want to get in contact with you or they want to bring you on to their podcast or anything like that, or if you're looking for podcast interviewees rather,
I would love
how would
that.
how would they get a hold of you? What's the best way? Just go into the Instagram?
Instagram Outside the Line. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Dina Campbell, or LinkedIn, Dina Campbell. So I would say Instagram or LinkedIn are probably the two best places to get a hold of me.
Okay. And your schedule is one where you're able to respond fairly fairly quickly? Or I
Yes.
mean, obviously 3 children, working as a detective, I'm sure you have a lot of things going on, but you're able to make time for all that. We don't wanna
Yeah.
burn you out, I guess is what I'm saying.
I know. Well, I'm going to do it to myself before anybody does it to me.
Right. Well, I really appreciate, you taking the time. I know we got kinda cut off in the middle there. I'm hoping that all of that came together. If it didn't, I'll reach out to you, and then
Please.
we'll start over and then
Okay.
have another episode.
That's
Thank you for
fine
your
by
time.
me.
I took some time away from the kiddos this morning. I apologize for that, but
They'll be okay.
just give them a big hug and tell them Billy down here in Myrtle Beach is getting ready to go to the beach with his dog. So
Oh, they're going to be
uh,
jealous because it's like
yeah,
20 degrees up here.
yeah, it's not here. It was 72 yesterday, I think.
Send some of that
Oh,
up
by the
my way,
way,
please.
well, a lot of NYC officers come down here and end up getting in law enforcement. So I mean, they're still selling houses down here.
Good to know.
And the cost of living is a lot lower.
You have a
I don't know,
future
I've just
career in real estate. You could come up to New York and start bringing people down.
if not real estate, at least, marketing for the city.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you come down. Anytime you come down, make sure you reach out,
I
and
definitely
so
will.
we can and we'll put you in the studio. We'll do a podcast in the studio
That
behind
would
me
be
here.
amazing.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
So, both you and your husband, and then I'll just be the interview off camera, and I'll be like, "Okay, guys, we're gonna ask you both questions." So,
The newlywed game.
that's it. That's it. I love it. All right.
Thank
Well,
you
thank
so
you so
much
much
for
for
having me. I really loved being here. This is a great
yeah,
conversation.
yeah. There needs to be more like this for sure.
Yes,
All right. Thanks, Dina.
of course.
All right. Have a good night,
You too.
day, morning.
All of the above.
Correct. Bye.